the leader of Reform, Nigel Farage, saying something that is often repeated, which is that what is the point of us transitioning to net zero when we are responsible for such a tiny fraction of the world's emissions. Now, in our inquiry, building the case for the energy transition, we've heard evidence of the economic benefits, of the national security benefits. What do you think is the answer to what Mr. Farage was saying yesterday and what quite a lot of people, in my experience, also say?
We're taking action on the clean energy transition because it's the right thing to do for the country today, and it's the right thing for future generations. It's really important to say this. I think Nigel Farage wants to airbrush history. He wants people to forget about the fact that it was our exposure to fossil fuels that led to the worst cost of living crisis in generations. Family finances wrecked, business finances wrecked, and still paying the price. Perhaps we'll come on to that. And public finances wrecked as well. And there is only one answer to that, which is homegrown clean energy we control. And the security you get from that homegrown clean energy is what is now essential for our energy security and our national security. And anything else, any decision to say, let's just remain on fossil fuels, subject to a global market controlled by petrostates and dictators, is frankly surrenders our energy security and indeed our national security. And so, Reform can sort of make these arguments, but they fly in the face of the British people's experience of what has happened to them and what they are still facing. Plus, as well as energy security, this is the right thing to do for jobs. And if you go to what's happening at Sizewell, or carbon capture and storage in 4 different parts of the country, or indeed offshore wind, or what we hope to do on hydrogen, this is the jobs opportunity of the 21st century, and we should seize it. It's also the right thing for future generations as well. As I said in my climate and nature statement a week ago, we should be proud of what Britain have done under governments of both the Conservative and Labour parties in taking a lead and others following.
Richard Tice, the Member of Parliament for Skegness, wrote some letters to energy companies last week saying a future Reform government would cancel contracts for renewable energy. What do you think about that?
Well, it was, if I'm allowed to use this phrase, a sort of clown car operation, I think it's fair to say, by Richard Tice, because he wrote a letter saying he was going to rip up the contracts and then went on the PM programme that afternoon to rebut his own letter and to say that he'd been highly misinterpreted and he wasn't going to tear up the contract. Look, I think the broader point here is that this is driven not by concern for the British people or interest in people's energy bills. It's ideology, and as I think Theresa May put it a few months back, it's the people pushing this anti-clean energy agenda that are the real ideologues in this. Because why would you want to stay on expensive, insecure fossil fuels? And we only need to look at the geopolitical situation to see the level of insecurity and exposure that we have. Why would you want to stay on those when you can have cheap, clean power that we control?
I think one of the questions that he suggests that is an issue is that we may lose jobs as a result of this in different industries, and also that there is not at the moment, with the current energy market, there's not an absolute conviction or clarity about the pathway to making sure that this does result in cheaper energy for everybody, particularly for businesses.
I mean, it's very interesting that you should ask this question, Polly, because the industrial energy prices thing is very serious situation. And I read with interest some of the testimony you had to your committee as part of your cost of energy inquiry. But it's really important to understand why this happened, because what's basically happened is that when the crisis, I've got a sort of chart here, when the crisis hit, when Russia invaded Ukraine, industrial energy prices basically doubled. And they haven't got, the gas price hasn't got back to the level it was at in the past. and so bills are remaining high. And I was particularly struck by some testimony that you had from the director of the Energy Intensive Users Group, who said to your committee, and I quote, "With the energy crisis that hit after Russia invaded Ukraine, it's the wholesale electricity price that has been the dominant factor in driving electricity prices." In other words, there are people who want to use their opposition to clean energy and climate action to say this is all the fault of that, but they're just wrong. And that's what the energy-intensive industries are saying. Now, I don't want to underestimate some of the seriousness of the situation, but first of all, we've got to work out the reasons why industrial energy prices are high. And secondly, the really irresponsible thing about what Richard Tice is doing with that letter is he's almost deliberately putting at risk tens of thousands of jobs across our country. The net zero economy grew 3 times faster than the economy as a whole last year. He's sending a message to business and others: don't come and invest in Britain. We're sending the message: come and invest in Britain. And actually, to the tune of about 50 billion, they have been investing in Britain since the election, making commitments to invest in Britain. And that's about good jobs for people up and down the country, including in your constituency and indeed Richard Tice.